Hey guys, it's Kosi. Welcome back to the second episode of our little intermission Zero to Hero speedrun, in which we try to climb as high as possible in just 2 weeks time. Besides the lacking connection to our Radar.io page and no use of a friend list, another mandatory rule is that we only are allowed to do 10 dungeons a week. In the last episode, we luckily made our way towards the plus 11 to 15 bracket to farm our first big crafted item, and then even proceeded to step up the game even more in our first plus 17 done.
Wow!
We ended the episode on a dungeon score of 1415 and an item level of 455, as well as a rather uneventful vault to mainly just increase our overall item level. Yet in this episode, we go balls deep into the score grind. Anything below 18 is not acceptable, and for the sake of the video, I also attempted more than just one plus 20 key today.
You're joking.
And finally, we have an actual depleted key to show for, or rather, an abandoned one. So look forward to that. With that being said, make sure to get comfy, grab a drink and enjoy the second episode, enjoy the season finale, that sounds a lot better, for our Vengeance Demon Hunter special. Now because there is no such thing as time walking or Dragonflight dungeon weekly, we step right into the first dungeon without any detour. And the key I got from the vault was the same key we had our highest score from last week, Galakrond's Fall. Two things to mention here, since it's a new week, the affix changed. We got Tyrannical to increase bosses' HP and damage dealt, and Tangling, which is just pretty annoying in some scenarios, and then we got Bursting.
Oh, hell no, man. What the?
Now, if you want to play a healer and never did it before, Bursting is the perfect week to start doing so.
Stop the cap!
You get put on a heart rate and a stress level no other week can recreate, and with that, everything that isn't bursting will feel like child's play.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Boy am I glad I never had to heal bursting during my preservation Zero to Hero. What this means for us is, we can pull big because of Tyrannical, but not too big because of bursting. I made the call here to skip the first pack with Mass Stealth to pull the trash onto the boss and Lust. But didn't you just complain about bursting, I hear you ask? And yes, but my 5-head gamer brain tells me that this pack in front of the boss will absolutely not die at the same time. You got 2 bulky ones and 3 squishy ones. So in the worst case, you got 3 bursting stacks on the boss that doesn't hurt at all. Easy.
Easy!
Clearing trash on the second platform, I made a mistake. You see, I never tanked this key when skipping the first pull, so I wasn't aware of the numbers. Turns out, when you leave this area, you need exactly 41 and 1/3% trash count in order for it to make sense in the end. You achieve that by simply pulling 3 or more of those little overweight raptors that are to the side. Each of them gives 1% after all. But I also had other problems. Our healer dropped dead on the boss and he was our only combat res, meaning we had to get our shit together. And what is hilariously funny is, now that the healer was gone, people used the defensive and barely took any damage. This is why I'm telling you, use your defensive guys. Makes yours and your healer's life a lot easier. Yet after this boss came the fun stuff. I learned in my stream that Demon Hunter damage is nuts, so I really wanted to give it a shot at this very same spot while just blowing my stuff. 500k DPS for my gear seems fine to me, and I didn't even use a second decree. I'll take it. But besides that, I will simply skip the rest of this dungeon because A, we 3-chested this thing easily even by having to walk back for another 3% trash, and B, a little spoiler, we will return. Also, I didn't get the other Biz trinket back to back. Never lucky. The key I got from this was an Everbloom 20, and you know me, I lowered it to 18. No way I would be able to tank a 20 at this point. And you best believe I saw all of your comments about getting a paladin for the juicy freedom, but no way any one of you actually relies on some random Power Ranger to do the right thing. Like, come on. Disregarding, I took one of them paladins and I wholeheartedly believe freedom only got used for entangling. On a different note, you can use your retreat to remove those flower stacks. I never tested it, but some of you told me in the comments. But hey, the trash does die quickly, so dealing with them flowers is not an issue for this week for sure. Now, I pulled everything like I should, used the silent sigil to minimize any annoyance, and then I wanted to pull 1 pack of flowers onto the boss. My healer told me though, he got Master Spell ready. So I went back and grabbed the second pack as well. My party on the other hand refused to just stay in the boss area and wanted to snipe damage as soon as possible, which led to this. With pulling the boss, I instantly locked our paladin and our priest from the boss room. Granted, I did absolutely not know that the room gets closed in an instant. That's some Dark Souls shit. Well, wipe. Or not quite, cause I shadow melt and survived. Hashtag priorities. After this happened, I focused up and we got through the trash towards the second boss without any casualties. Even the score was looking fine, which I remember was a big issue for me when the season started. However, it was on the third boss when I was just in awe. The healer called out, "Just dodge the fire, I will heal the rest." And I had mad flashbacks to me healing this on the dragon here. But he did exactly that. Insane. Zooming through the last boss as well to time this with a +2, gained 131 rating and a trinket that I have not looted before in this season. The branch. I don't know how good this is for Havoc, but I will keep it for now. If it's good, let me know. Before we continue to the next dungeon, here's a quick reminder that we are on the road to 10k subscribers, and if you enjoy what you're seeing, you can make this stream a reality by pressing the juicy button down below. On behalf of me, my late granny, and my father that I haven't spoken to in over 20 years, we all appreciate your support.
Me love you long time.
Only keen nerds of you will have spotted the importance of this Throne of Tides key. Not only would this be the 5th key above 16 that ensures us a 486 crafted item if we successfully complete it, it's also Throne, one of the dungeons that hit insanely hard for tanks, and a dungeon where you actually need your group to do proper shit. It's a lose-lose situation. But first things first, we start this off with me being an absolute muppet. I thought I can just handle this pull with cooldowns. Turns out I can't. My cheat death trinket procced and all those bleeds and the bursting sacks were simply too much for me to live. So full wipe on first pull. Awesome. Again, I tested my limit and now was aware that this was in fact too much. I sobered up real quick though, and we quickly found ourselves in front of the first boss that worries me a little bit. Commander Fishmag has a crushing grip that can only be rivaled by a Russian father, and he is not scared to use it. But luckily, Mystery Monk is one of those healers that can just solo those walking hemorrhoids, so I mainly focused on surviving and no, just surviving to be honest. Rotating cooldowns in those grip windows was the name of the game for me. I took a deep breath after we dealt with this one, but I knew that there was one bigger fish in the sea. The weird octopus that tries to deep throat the Draenei is arguably the hardest boss for a tank to live. He hurts like hell and it's not even funny. In my head, I was rotating all them cooldowns all the time. Always demon spikes with either meta or fiery brand to reduce damage taken. And then even the worst happened. We lost the DPS. This means we will get more of those totem windows, but then you can hear my reaction when the phase 1 was finally over. Oh god bless. Yet we lost another one to the fear and almost lost the healer to the fear as well. With only 10 minutes on the clock, this was a very different key compared to all those easily timed keys before. Arriving at the gauntlet, I can say with 100% certainty, DH tank is completely busted here. Probably the most annoying pack to deal with is the circle jerk of 6 aqua mages that really enjoy to target the same person for a quick one-shot. But double silence, double fear and double chain sigil as well as the AoE stun, they can eat shit dude. 7 minutes to deal with the last boss while having bloodlust is more than enough, if everything works out as planned. And for some moments, the placement of the goo was horrible and scared me a lot. Yet in the end, we timed it and I was happy to say that I was done with Throne for this challenge. Only plus 93 score, but I will take it. After that, I made the decision to get myself a pair of legs crafted. I pretty much had 5 set after all, and legs gave me a very solid amount of main stats as well as the stamina. Only a rank 4, so only 482, but still a 40 eye level upgrade. This probably could have been worse.
No?
However, now with this new upgrade, we got a decision to make. Usually I would just continue to do my own key, but I did receive a 19 Galacrons from the last run, and I kinda want to save that one for later. So I applied, a lot, to keys that I probably wouldn't even invite myself to, plus 18s only. And even though it legit took me about 20 minutes of constant applying, I got in. Murozon's Rise, and this one I cannot mess up, since I only got it done on an 8. And you know me, I already planned ahead on what could possibly be painful for me to deal with. Tyr, first of all, hits like a truck, especially with his frontal that you absolutely need to use a defensive spell for to not drop dead instantly. And the battlefield, with the very unhealthy minus 75% healing done after their Mortal Strike ability. But then I remembered, I got cheat death. I mean, even if I fail one of those mechanics, I'm fine, right? Right?
Yes.
And with that I pulled. Very controlled. Again, I'm absolutely in love with the Silent Sigil man. It's just so insanely overpowered. However, shortly after it was time to focus up. Tyr's Titanic Blow hit so insanely hard, I wanted to make sure I either got Fiery Brand or Meta up to soak it proper. And look how much this thing hits me for, even with 40% damage reduction from Fiery Brand. The next challenge came in form of the Long Lost Battlefield. Here, the Mortal Strike ability is a bit wonky with the overlap of some other abilities. Sometimes you get the healing reduction while the boss just keeps railing you. Sometimes he hits the ability and then goes into a shockwave or bladestorm. Either way, I yet again wanted to make sure I either have Meta or Fiery Brand up in order to not drop low on the Mortal Strike ability itself. Because of our party being stacked with absolute gamers, we had no issues with Morchi at all, which led only to the last boss. Deus is... well, it's quite easy as a tank to be fair. I again made sure to have either Meta or Brand rolling because of the breath, which I believe is only an issue because of the lack of gear. And with that, 2 chests. Again, no item of use, so we stepped into the next key. Surely with the score now of being 1871, I get accepted into more dungeons. So I kept applying until I eventually got accepted into a Vacrest Manor 18. Easy key, or is it? 5 bosses on Tyrannical after all, and we got no time to lose. As you all know, the first boss is not really a problem. Besides us having the once a run death from someone not moving from the debuff, this went fine. Now in the yard, I pulled slowly but surely, purely because of bursting. I hate bursting, man. Twixter, Pictits and the Waycrests did not pose a threat, so we quickly made our way to the end of the dungeon by 2-chesting this bad boy in a very uneventful manner. Another 124 rating means we are only 5 away from KSM, and a new belt with Mastery Verse came our way as well. Lovely. 5 out of 10 dungeons done for this week. Now with that, we only need 3 more dungeons in order to have them all done on 18 this week. Atal Azar, Black Cold, and as well the Darker Ticket. And into the ticket we go. Now again, this is not my key, so I prepared for the worst. Turns out, I'm the bad player here. When pulling, someone took aggro from a few mobs, and I was certain it was some DPS who just couldn't wait, but it was the healer due to healing, so unlike me, make sure you got some initial aggro on every target before you continue, I guess. And besides the occasional one-shots due to the first boss or those big ass shrooms, this run wasn't too bad so far. Very important on the second boss is to have cooldowns running during Crushing Grip. At least Fell Devastation and Demon Spikes to deal with it proper. But even with all those avoidable deaths by all of us, we still managed to stand before Xavios with 4 minutes to 2 chests to run. And yet I am honestly so weirded out by the fact that still so many people don't know how to do this boss. Very often they run away with the silence ability and try to get close with the paranoia. And mixing up those 2 mechanics can go very bad, since either of those can absolutely wipe the party if the healer is silenced or gets feared in a bad timing. So keep that in mind. If you're silenced, get close. Nonetheless, another 136 rating to achieve Keystone Master, and the cloak that is hero and a big upgrade. Also with KSM now, this means we got access to a free heroic tier item due to the Emerald Mark of Mastery. Good stuff. I decided to go for the headpiece simply because Haste Verse is nice to have and it still gives me the most amount of stats per item level. Atal Azar was the next key I somehow gotten myself into by pretty much lying. On every application I noted, I'm not a muppet, if they only knew. But the first group I had to leave again. This dude was even more annoying than Sonic on crack, and I did not want to deal with someone like this. So I applied some more. And those of you who watch the stream know, I don't like this dungeon. Mainly because I'm still not able to tank the final boss proper, but first things first. What I do like is that Vengeance just removes almost every harmful spell of the trash on the left side of this dungeon. No worries for heals, those nasty bubbles or fireballs, because they are just silenced for 16 seconds in a row. On Tyrannical, this pretty much means they flop over in that time, and I love it. However, bursting was the name of the game here, and it was the only thing that was responsible for the few deaths we gathered towards the second boss. And even though some of us could have lived through bursting by using things like Bubble, Turtle or even the Imp Dispel that Distrolox could go for, this was still fine. Yet the second boss went surprisingly well. Full blood puddle usage, and I love it as well. Now on the last boss, you can tell me if I did it somehow correct or not. I know the theory is that moving the boss around in a rather quick fashion, so in the perfect world, people can stand behind it when the soul rend happens, and then I, as a tank, just pull the boss away from those spawns. I at least believe that is the theory, and to help out, I sent all the chain sigils and decrees I could muster just to help out. I feel like it wasn't too bad this time. 2239 rating to our name and 7 out of 10 dungeons done. One was missing. The darkest of Rukol's, the black one.
That's gotta be racist. There's no way.
And just because there were little plus 18s, I applied to 19s and even 20s. Kung Fu Boy had full belief in me, and so I was ready to prove him right. However, a couple of Germans from Blackrook did indeed not believe. Slightly rude, but I was very confident on this one. It's only a Blackrook code after all, and no boss is an actual threat to the tank in any way. Yet I decided to be my own downfall by making a few stupid decisions. First, I kept pulling the next set of mobs with still a spider on me to debuff me up, while my trinket has already procced. And even though this was not dumb to do itself, it's the way I did it. Instead of going into meta right away to live, I was cheap with it and wanted to use Fell Devastation instead. So this happened. Because of a few casualties, I decided to do smart pulls on arguably the floor most people do dumb shit.
Boring!
Another pack that clapped 4 out of 5 people's cheeks was the final pack of the dungeon. Bursting was just too much to handle and it actually procced my trinket again. So throughout this dungeon, spiders and bursting triggered it. That's rough. Speaking of rough, this was the first pull of the boss. So we went again. This time no problem, is what I would say, but we had 2 people dirt napping again in the end. Nonetheless, our first plus 20 timed to an overall score of 2394. This now led to the final 2 dungeons of the series. The first one will be my own key, 19 Galakrons, and it started off so well. We skipped trash in the beginning, easily pulled the second pack onto the first boss and had no one dropping on the time waste. Matter of fact, the one that started to mess up was me. Here I died on the second set of dragons because I didn't go into Fell Devastation fast enough. And then I also seem to have forgotten on how the third boss works. My insane mismanagement of the orb was so out of hand that I got mind controlled so many times. First, I just straight up took it too early. On the second pull, it was legit a matter of seconds due to the cast time of the reclamation, as I got MC'd just half a second before the spell went through.
Bruh.
Fortunately, this was the end of my shittery. So we killed the boss on the third go while taking down Iridicron first attempt as well. Got rewarded with a weapon for my stupidity, at least those things never change. Timed nonetheless, and I got a 20 Waycrest out of it, which I was eager to do. But after smashing keys for almost 6 hours straight, maybe I needed a break, is something a wussy would say, and with that, let's go. Yet first we had some more upgrades. I got a new ring and the lariat crafted just to get rid of a bit of haste and to massively increase our versatility. Starting the key, we had some issues on the first boss. For some reason our healer refused to simply remove the jagged nettles from our DPS by healing them full, and so he just power healed them throughout the pull, or until they died. Then we had some small casualties when I accidentally pulled the boss, and since you cannot reset Pictet's McGee, we just had to wipe. After that I slightly overpulled, which had us die again. But now it was time for the boss. Now I usually tell the healer in advance when I want to trigger the fire on this one, and that's what I did. But then every damn fire went out. Look at this shit. This boss was standing in it for a whole second before the fire just said fuck no. Eventually we wiped, and maybe I could have lived this regardless, like my healer was telling me, but I made the decision to use the fire, which was bad apparently. Our shaman had enough and I don't blame him. That dungeon was solely on me for sure. However, this was our 10th dungeon of this week, meaning we attempted all 20 dungeons for this series and the only thing left is to open the big upcoming vault. 3 Mythtrax items after all. Also, one thing to note, I appreciate all of you telling me that I rolled for Havoc on the last week's vault, and I'm very aware. I mean, I got the one tank trinket that matters from dungeons with the stone scales, so I guess I was just praying for the sand class, cause why not? But it was just the basic vault, head, shoulders and belt. Considering I took the helmet with the KSM token earlier, shoulders are most likely the only option to take for the big tier set upgrade. And here's where we will end the second episode of this quick 0 to hero version of the Demon Hunter. Item level of 468 in just 2 weeks, as well as an overall score of 2411. And I feel like if starting with some bigger balls last week, Keystone Hero would be absolutely achievable. This class is insane, and if you're still in need for a tank to play next season, go for the Vengeance Demon Hunter, man. You cannot go wrong. And with this, I wish you the most fantastic day whenever you see this. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next week for our first season 4 episode. Take care.